we're live. So Kaynella's watching. Thank you, Kaynella. As you can see, we're new at this, but we'll get it. So thank you for joining us. Leah and I are going to be coming to you live on Facebook every Wednesday at 4 o'clock Pacific time to talk about animal meditation, animal Reiki, answer questions. We will be having experts come on and we can ask questions. So we would really appreciate it if you can't make it live, if you send us your questions ahead of time and we will answer them. And if you are watching live, put them in the comments because we are keeping track of that over here on our personal phones, right? So it's really nice to be here. Leah and I are very excited about this, aren't we, Leah?
Absolutely.
Yes. And this is going to be fun. We can get to know you better. We can share information. And we're just, you know, we are two gals that are really excited about what the future holds and what we have to offer. And so we thank you for being here. Oh, Chris is here too. Okay, excellent. Thank you, Kaynella, for letting us know because I'm not seeing who's joining. So
and Kathy Chenard is here.
Okay.
Hey, Kathy. And Darlene Collison is watching. Hey, Darlene. And yes, we are recording it, Kathy. You will be able to catch it on YouTube.
Yes, and on the Animal Bonds Facebook page, it'll be there. So, but we are going to have it put to YouTube on our channel there. So thank you everybody for coming. And so if you have questions, go ahead and just put them in the chat. If there's any topic you would like to discuss in particular. Leah and I have gotten some questions, right?
Yeah, I was going to say while we're waiting for people to put in questions if they have any, why don't we start with the first question? Of course, I'm not prepared here. With the first question, do you have it, Jamie? Because if you don't, I have it right.
I don't.
Okay.
Because when we started over, I lost my question. So.
So I will put those. I will send those to you. So the first one is, and this is a really important one, I feel, is what role does intent play when you are meditating or offering Reiki to animals? So do you want to start with that, Jamie?
Sure. That is a really important question because our intent is so powerful with everything in life. You know, our intention when we're offering meditation, Reiki to animals, will make the difference whether or not it's going to be successful, whether or not they're going to want to accept it. So if we go in with the intent that, oh, this poor animal, they need us, we're here to heal them, or we have something to give them, you know, like we are this big almighty thing that is going to come and help the animal. Well, they're just like us. I mean, do you want somebody coming in thinking they know everything that's best for you? You know, with that intention? No. But if you go in with the intention, I am here to hold space. I invite you into this space. You're free to choose how you want to participate, if you want to participate at all. And it doesn't matter. I will honor your decision. I'm just here to hold this space for you if you want to step into it. What a difference. And Leah, I know you've seen the difference in animals when you go in with that kind of intention, how they respond.
Absolutely. I think that for me too, another thing that happens, and I think Kathy actually brought this up when we had class together, that, you know, our intention holds a lot for the animals. So like, let's say you're going to sit and offer a distant treatment and your intent, you know, you're kind of new to this, or you feel like your mind wanders, but you have the intent that I want to connect with you. I want to hold space. that intention means a lot to the animals, and they will connect with you. They are so forgiving of us and our weaknesses. They're forgiving of us and our egos. So when you set that intention that I am here for you, and they feel that love from your heart, there's almost always a deep connection because they understand our intent is to be there for them. Our intent is to support them. Our intent is to connect with them, not to fix them or heal them or make them feel like something's wrong. But when we just have that intention, I love you so much, I would just love to connect, it means the world to them. And I see this over and over and over, and I know you do too.
Right. Yeah. And it's so true. It's all about our intention. How we approach them. If we come, because one thing I think I've noticed is a lot of people, when they start learning Reiki or meditation with animals and they begin to work with them, they're very serious. Oh, so serious. Oh my gosh.
Guilty. Guilty.
I was too. I'm like, oh, I must meditate and I must get still and be serious. And you know what? Animals are joyful. And their intention is to have fun. And let's just have fun. Let's be joyful. And it's amazing if you go in with the intention of, we're going to be joyful. We're going to share joy in this moment. And I'm going to hold space, but it's going to be fun. And there's love filling this space. And we're going to enjoy it. That's going to be more powerful than anything you could do. Just having the intention of joy and having fun as you approach the animal.
Absolutely. I always say, let's say you were sick or not feeling well. Do you want the friend to come that's all wrong? I'm going to sit, I'm going to hold space. Or do you want the friend that's like, I'm so happy to see you. I love being with you. I just want to sit with you and just hold space for you and just be in this moment with you. Huge difference, right? In energy. But we've all been guilty of that seriousness. Absolutely. Because we're not taught to have joy. And I think that, Veronica just joined us. Hey, Veronica.
Hi, Veronica. Veronica, yes, good to see you again, Veronica. Oh, Wanda. Hey, Wanda, how are you?
And so I think that what brought it home for me was one of my favorite people, Taya Strom, who is an animal communicator and a medium. And she's an incredibly talented animal communicator, one of the best I've ever known. And she told me, she's like, she said, I always start my sessions with joy. She said, because that's what the animals want. That's what they told me over and over. It's harder for them to connect to her as an animal communicator when she comes to them in serious, because they're not quite sure. But when she comes to them with joy, it's like, oh, I want to connect with you. So I feel like for Animal Reiki and our space that we, when we want to connect, it's the same exact thing. Do you want to connect with someone who's really joyful and happy, or do you want to connect with someone who is more serious and you're not quite sure, right? Especially if you're doing a distant treatment for the first time, they don't even know you, right?
Yeah. And, I know that, Reiki is different than animal communication because it's a passive activity, the animal Reiki or animal meditation. However, it's the same thing holds true. If you want animals to connect to you, come with them from a place of joy. Absolutely. And I think that's so important. And we learn that over time, right? Because you don't usually get taught that in a lot of classes, but as you practice, you begin to understand that, oh yeah, if I'm joyful, the animals really respond to me.
No, I love that too. But it's, it's so funny because I never really even thought, oh, not that I'm being serious. And I'm sure you felt that way too. It's just like, oh, maybe this is serious. If they're sick, you have to be serious. But when Taya opened my eyes to that, it was like, oh, wow. And that was, about, 3 or 4 years ago. We've talked about that, Jamie, and how we've really incorporated that joy into our practice now.
Yes. Okay, Nella made a comment that she loves that we come in joyful.
Yes.
And Darlene asked a question, when doing distant Reiki, would it work differently to set a time to do this?
Meaning, I'm not sure I understand.
I'm not sure. So I can tell you this, Darlene, I normally, when I'm doing distant Reiki, unless it's for a shelter animal or something like that, but when it's with a client, I arrange a time and let them know, well, this is when we will be doing the session. You know, we pick a time when they can sit quietly with their pet, relax, they can light a candle, they can listen to music, however they want to experience. And I'll send them a text, I'm beginning, so they can get comfortable. And then I send them a text when it's complete. So I think it's important that they know so they can just be quiet and be receptive to it. What do you think, Leah?
No, absolutely. I agree. It's just finding that time. Maybe it's the morning after they've had breakfast. They want to go to nap. Maybe it's in the afternoon after they've had their walk, or if it's a cat, you know, maybe the afternoons are better. Maybe it's at night. I've done sessions where we agreed that it would be at nighttime when the pet parents were going to sleep, and also the animal that we're, you know, offering this to. But yeah, it's really, the time depends more on the animal and the ability to have that quiet space, because you really want to avoid offering Reiki during a time when they're going to be distracted. It's not to say they won't connect, but it's going to be harder for them. If there's a lot going on, like let's say at 2:30 the kids come home and there's a lot of action going on, and even though the dog might or cat might be in another room, there's still a lot, the energy is out there, right? And animals are super sensitive to energy, so we have to honor that.
Yes. And Chris made a comment, the animals person providing the environment would be helpful, I would think. And that is so true, because as we know, you know, the animal, our pets pick up on what's going on with us. So if I'm all stressed out, then these guys pick up on this energy, and they may not know why. Maybe I'm just stressed out because I have a lot to do, but they don't know that. They just know something's wrong. So to them, it's like, something's wrong, mom's upset, you know? And so it's really important that the pet parents get involved and relax and spend a moment. They don't even, you know, all they have to do is focus on their breath or focus on how much they love their pet, and just put their intention on, you know, oh, I just love you, and you're, you know, you've added so much joy to my life, and spend 30 minutes like that. And it's going to be good for them, and it's going to be good for the animal. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that while we're talking about that too, we can talk a little bit about when you offer a distant treatment, how not to get attached to a certain type of response from the animal, right? So you're offering Reiki, and maybe the first session goes really well. The dog or cat or horse really relaxes and goes deep. Maybe the second session, you don't get quite the response that you thought you should get. So we have to stop ourselves from being attached to that certain outcome, because one of my students, she went to the zoo, and when we were talking, she said, I went to the lions and I felt like they were connecting, but they didn't seem like they were. And then I went to another animal, we'll say a fox, and they were going, you know, pacing like foxes do. And she said they didn't stop. And so she felt like her trip to the zoo was really disappointing, and she felt like she didn't succeed. But when we started to talk about it, I said, well, sometimes all the animals will do is just lock eyes with you for just a minute. And she goes, oh yeah, the lions did that. She said they did it a few times, and it was for more than just a couple seconds. And I'm like, okay, there's success. And then when she went to the foxes again, she said, well, they actually stopped at one point and locked eyes and then continued. Okay, for a nervous animal that's pacing all the time, you might only get that second, but that second is there. They feel you, they connect.
Especially with wild animals, right? I mean, they're not like our pets who are used to making eye contact with us or having us around. When you're out just in nature, the birds and just wild animals, for them to connect just even for a few seconds is big. That means they're accepting it. So, and I think we do that. I know I did that a lot. I'm guilty of that, especially in the beginning, because I was worried, what are the people, the pet parents going to think if they don't see a reaction from their dog, so it's like, oh, please react. And that was just ego. And that was worry, that they're not going to think that anything is happening, instead of just trusting the process and knowing that the animal will accept the Reiki however it wants to, or it won't. And that's perfectly okay. We may not see it what we think it should look like, but that doesn't mean that the animal isn't accepting it. Because I went to a zoo, this was quite a few years ago, and it was a Saturday. It was in San Diego, and I went to the gorilla enclosure because I was really drawn to that. And the zoo was packed because it was a Saturday. And that little enclosure, that they have where people stand, was full of people. And everybody was being so obnoxious. I mean, they were scratching their armpits, they're making ape noises, they're jumping up and down, being loud. And all the apes, including the silverback, was clear in the back of the enclosure, just as far away from the people as it could get, which I don't blame it. And I felt so sad and so embarrassed that I was part of this human species as they were behaving like this, right? And I'm like, what can I do? What can I do? And it's like, well, I'll just try to offer Reiki. And it was just that intent. And somehow I made eye contact with that silverback, and he was far away. So I don't even know how it happened, but we made eye contact. And he stood up and started walking towards me. And I immediately dropped my eyes because I didn't want him to think I was challenging him or anything. And then the closer he got, the more obnoxious everybody around me became. And I was just so humiliated, and I felt so bad, because I'm thinking, so here I went into my ego and I humanized the whole situation. And I thought, oh, he's coming down here because of me, and he's going to be ridiculed because of me, and it's all my fault. And what have I done? Why did I do this? And he just kept coming down, and he stood directly in front of me, in front of that glass. And then he just turned around and leaned back on the glass. And I was just devastated because I humanized that. And it wasn't till a few years later when I was.
But did you recover when you were offering? Did you recover?
No. So this was really early. This was before I even had studied Let Animals Lead. I was just familiar with human Reiki. And so I was talking to an animal communicator, and she said, he was your Reiki teacher. She said, if he was, you humanized him, because what do we do? We're like, oh, talk to the hand, or we turn our back on people, right? She said, if he was doing that to you, he would have beat his chest. He would have thrown poop at you. Totally different. But he came, turned his back like he does on a member of his pack. He's watching over you. And it was like, oh, I wish I had known, but I didn't. It was a learning lesson. And I'm sure he knew that I needed this lesson. But so there again, it's about learning every time we go out there and be with the animals, and understanding that we got to let go of the ego. We got to let go of our expectation. What is it supposed to look like? Don't humanize how it should look.
Well, what I want to say about that too, what I love about that story is your intent, going back to the intention, right? Your intent was, I am here for you. And again, how the animals, that's a perfect example of how the animals forgive our humanness and still connect deeply and understand our heart mind, right? Our heart and our mind together are in the right place. Your mind, was getting, your ego was like this, but your heart was still, I'm here for you. And I love that story so much because we're human. This is going to happen, right? We do these treatments, we expect a certain thing. And then in that humanness, we start to take away from that experience, right? We take away from that little bit of connection. And in that case, it was a big bit of connection, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
We then leave and go, oh, I should have, instead of thank you, right? And so when that's really, I would like to close that story because it's an amazing, thank you so much for sharing that, Jamie, because that's such a great example of intention and then forgiveness for yourself, right, ladies? So show compassion to yourself. And here we are. And now you can show compassion to yourself, and right, energy knows no time or space. And that ape feels that connection again, right?
Yes.
That's amazing. I love that so much. Thank you.
Yes.
And then, Canella said, what a great story, Jamie. I love that. And it goes back to that intention, that first question, right? I mean, here we are, full circle. Really accidental, but yeah.
The intention was to go and, have a pure heart. And so even though I was, worried about things, he forgave me, and he just came down, and animals will do that for us.
They do. And I'm a big proponent for going to the zoo. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to support zoos. They're horrible. They are, and Portland Zoo, they had this beautiful lion. Well, they still do. And the guillotine that comes down when they go inside, for shelter, they cut off the tip of his tail, his little fur ball.
Oh no.
And they put I think his name was Packy. He was like, oh God, so old. He was about 70 years old. And they put him down. They said he was sick, but everybody was saying he really wasn't sick. They just put him down because they needed to make space, right? So the Oregon Zoo is not a great zoo, sadly. But I go there because the animals need us. They need us to see them. They need us to tell them, I love you, I see you, and you matter, right? Mm-hmm. And I've had some incredible experiences at the zoo for World Animal Reiki Day, which is coming up February 5th.
Yes, it is.
It's a great day to honor animals. And if you do have a zoo by you, I encourage you to go to that zoo. But before you go, set your intention, right? Going back to intention, set your intention. But you are going there to thank the animals for all that they give to the people, the thousands, millions of people that come through there. And I guarantee you, when you go, because this has happened to me time and time again, set your intention when you get there again, you say the precepts, and then you go to each animal and thank them. And they just go boom, 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 boom. It's incredible. And I'll share, my students know this story, but I'll share this really fun story about the crocodiles or alligators. I can't remember. I think might have been alligators. And they were in this glass enclosure, and we had been there, saying thank you to all the animals. And I think we had ended at the crocodiles. And the crocodiles, one of them was hidden it was like a big glass thing, and there were some cement seats, and we were sitting there. And one of the alligators was hiding around the corner, and one of them was laying down right in front of us. And everything was quiet. And one of the ladies said, how big do you think that alligator is? And I said, well, he's probably about 6 feet, but it's very hard to tell because, he's not, I can't see him the way he was curled up. I couldn't see, and the way water is, you can't really tell. I said, so it's very hard for me to tell. And so we were talking about it, and pretty soon the alligator goes from here on the bottom, and he slowly lifts his whole body up and stands up until his head is out of the water. And I go, yep. He's 6 feet long. Okay. And then he slowly came back down, and we're just like, oh my gosh. And then here comes the other alligator. I'm big too. And he stands up, and then he comes down, and they're both, like looking at us. It was the most amazing thing. Wow. Because here we were, we dedicated our practice, when you go in there, you say, thank you, thank you. And then we were just sitting there quietly. And then, the woman asked me, and that happened. And that's happened so many times with the animals. I've had the big anaconda. My friend and I went there, and we were doing chanting. And a lot of times when you chant, the snakes will, if they're in an enclosure, like a glass enclosure, they'll crawl up the glass. And this big anaconda started to crawl up the wall while we were doing our chanting. And we were doing it low. We were just like, very quiet. And he just started to cry. And we're just like, oh my God. And people are coming in going, why is the snake doing that? And we're just like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. He was completely connecting with us. And I know they feel the vibration, but they must have an extreme sensitivity because we were very low. We weren't, you could barely hear us. But it was really amazing. So I encourage everybody, go to the zoo or any kind of sanctuary, right? And you can talk more on that. But for World Animal Reiki Day that's coming up, this is a perfect time.
It absolutely is. And if you have, a sanctuary that's open to the public or a zoo, and why not go with that intention to bring joy and love and respect to the animals and watch how they respond. I get a lot of questions, from people, or actually they're very surprised when, I'll say, because as you know, a lot of people know, I go out to a farm animal sanctuary and it's a pot-bellied pig. And they're like, pigs like Reiki? Well, of course, they're all animals and they're shocked, that they just think that it's something for cats and dogs, but nothing is farther from the truth. We were out there one time, one of my students, and there was some young little piglets out there. They were, they were fairly good sized, but they were young. And we had been offering Reiki all day. And then we were sitting down, just talking to the woman who runs it, and for a while, and all the pigs went to sleep, they left. And then we're like, well, I guess we better go. And she and I both got up, and all of a sudden these little pigs came from around the house. They're squealing and they're coming after us and they're following us to the gate. And she's like, I think they want to go home with you. It's like, well, they can't, but.
Oh my God, what a great story. They're like, Mama, we love you. But you can imagine how that must feel to them, because we know what it feels like to get a really good Reiki treatment, right?
Yes.
And to be deep in that space where you're so relaxed and you really truly just want more of it, right?
Yes.
That meditative space is really addictive. So I can just imagine those little piglets.
Oh, yes. They were like so happy. They're like, no, don't leave. We're over here sleeping. Don't go.
No, animals are really amazing.
They are. And any animal will be receptive to it if it's, presented correctly and if they're in the mood for it. And absolutely, it's not just for cats and dogs. And
at Remus is a huge horse sanctuary in Essex, and Kathleen, she goes and teaches level 3, and I go with her, and then when the students go out to do practice, we take them out into these big pastures, and there's about 200 animals, and so we went into a pasture with horses, and there's probably about 20 horses, and it was so sweet because I can't remember the male horse's name. Oh, it might have been Tosco. So Dolly and Tosco, we started to walk down the paved path to the gate, and here comes Dolly and Tosco to the gate. And we're like, oh, okay, that's nice. So we opened the gate and they waited with us. And then the other horses were kind of probably about 50 yards away. So we were walking, and here Tosco and Dolly are walking with us. And we get up there and we do our session, right? And all the horses are really receptive. And it's such a beautiful space because you're in Essex, and it's just gorgeous. And then the horses like take turns coming up to you and like putting their head on you, and it's just a beautiful experience. And so we ended our session and we thanked the horses, and then we started to leave, and here comes Dolly and Tosco, and they escort us all the way back down to the gate, and we open it, and we go out and we're like, bye, and they're just hanging over their heads like, thank you for coming. We enjoyed having you in our space. It was just the most amazing experience, but they knew what we were there for because, we've been there so many times. But, animals are just so amazing when they show us, if we're open to it, if we're really aware and connected. Yes.
Yeah, and pay attention. Because, I think they show us all the time.
Yes.
And we just are so busy There's so many distractions in our world. We have a hard time just being in the present moment, as you know, that's part of what this teaches us. Because, you know, animal Reiki, yes, we talk a lot about what it does for the animals, but it does probably more for us.
Mm.
Wouldn't you agree? I
Oh,
mean,
absolutely.
it helps us become grounded. We can handle with, you know, we stay calm when there's chaos in our life. We have tools to help us let go of anger and worry. And so I think it just gives us more than it does the animals. And it also helps us, I think, become more present. And then we become aware. We see the animals responding. We see what's going on in the animal world, which, you know, we probably missed before we actually learned this practice.
Oh, absolutely. And another thing they bring to us is they teach us really valuable lessons. So when we went to Remus on a different trip, there was a woman who we were out there to offer Reiki, and Apollo is this very sweet, it's a female horse. Apollo is a very sweet, gentle horse. But with this woman, I can't remember her name, we'll just say Sandy, she kept pushing her and pushing her. And Kathleen's like, you know, Sandy, you've got to push back on her. You've got to tell her, no, she's invading your space. And she goes, okay. And she kind of pushed her, and Apollo just kept coming at her and, like, you know, hitting her with her side and just like, come on, do something. And Sandy's like, Kathleen's like, you know, you could get hurt. You've got to push her back. You got to say no. And, you know, just horses, especially gentle horses, will listen. And Sandy said, well, I am coming out of a really abusive relationship, and I have a very big problem with boundaries, and I can't push back. And she said, and even pushing back on this horse doesn't make me feel comfortable. Aha, right? And Apollo was teaching her, it's with me, you can do it. You can do it, right? She's pushing her. You need to heal this. It was amazing that Apollo picked up that was her problem. And that horses, if you have access to horses, highly recommend going and meditating, sharing space with horses, because it's the most amazing experience. But, you know, that story will always just stick out so much in my mind, because it was such a lesson on what we bring, right? Our energy when we come into these things, but being open to us being healed as well, because she wasn't, right? She was going to offer Reiki or whatever, and she wasn't probably thinking about her problem, or maybe she was, but Apollo was there to show her, hey, you got to push back. It's okay to push back. And she was the perfect horse to do it, because she was so gentle, didn't have a mean bone in her body. So we were all like, what is Apollo doing? You know, it was so out of character. And then it was that realization. And then she shares that, and it's like, wow.
Okay. Yeah. And they do that. They know what we need to heal us. You know, and we were talking about this earlier, and it reminds me of it, because sometimes when you have, you know, people who have been trained in Reiki, traditional human Reiki, and they come to you and they say, well, I was trying to offer Reiki to an animal, and it didn't like it. It was too strong. The Reiki was too strong for the animal. And nothing could be farther from the truth. It's not that your Reiki was too strong, because the animals are so in tune to the energy. We can't even compare to what they can do. And it's that we offered it incorrectly, in a, you know, disrespectful manner, in a way that didn't honor them, or just a way they didn't appreciate. So there's that. I think.
No, Kathy I love that you said that, because Kathy just asked the question, are we going to be talking about the difference between meditation and animal Reiki? And I think that's a perfect segue, because when we talk about when we talk about animal meditation, we're talking about the let animals lead method. We talk about animal Reiki, we're talking about the traditional animal Reiki that's being taught right now. I know William Rand has an animal Reiki school. I know that there's ladies in the UK that have an animal Reiki school. And then also when human, and if you want to share that, Jamie, how you learned about animal Reiki.
Right. Because I have taken, I mean, I started 18 years ago with human Reiki, and I went through a lot of teachers. And it was always the same. At the end of the class, they'd say, oh, and you can offer Reiki to animals, and they're very sensitive, so they only need about 5 minutes.
Kathleen was taught the same thing. It's like you can just do the same with animals, but you know, they might not take as much because they're so sensitive, or it's too much, too strong.
So you walk out of there thinking, oh, I use the same techniques on animals that I just learned in this class. And really nothing is farther from the truth. I think, you know, and so that's why I kept taking classes, because something was missing for me. And then when I found the animal meditation, which is the let animals lead method, right? Because it is a meditative method, it all fell into place. And it's like, this is what makes sense. And I saw the animals respond. And it's like, okay, all right, now this is what I was looking for, right?
And a lot of the schools, they incorporate chakras. They incorporate hand positions. And the problem with that is it will work sometimes, like with domesticated tame animals, like a friend's animal, maybe on some horses, you might get it to work. Because I know it does work. That's why they're teaching it, right? But when we direct our energy, you've got something wrong with you, I'm going to heal you. And like, let's say, you know, a cat has a hurt shoulder. The minute your intention goes to that shoulder, it's like poke, 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 poke. There's something wrong. And that's why animals will go, oh, no, you know, and don't direct your energy at me. And it's not because our energy is so strong. It's because we're focusing on something that's not even upsetting to them. Like, yeah, it might hurt, but that's not what they're focused on, right? And I don't know if you want to expand on that.
Yeah, you know, when we go in and focus on the problem, you know, whether it's a hurt shoulder or maybe they've had a leg amputated or whatever the situation is, and we're like, oh, this poor thing. So we start to feel sorry. We start to feel pity. Because it's like, oh, there's a problem and this is so sad and we need to come in and try to fix this. And think about it, you know, do you appreciate people pitying you? I don't, and I don't think most people do. We don't want pity from people. And animals don't either. And then they're like, animals know, oh, this person, they're still in that place. You know, they can tell the difference when you come with an open heart, full of joy, knowing that all is well. However, seeing them is perfect, no matter what is going on with them, whether it's mental or physical issues that they may have, but they're perfect because we all have that beautiful spirit inside of us that connects all of us together. They have that. And as long as we have that, we're perfect. And so when animals sense that we don't pick up on their perfection, or all we're doing is picking up and feeling sorry for them, a lot of times they'll just walk away from us.
Well, I think that's the difference in the let animals lead way and why we named it what we did and why we practice it, because this is thousands of hours with animals. This isn't something that was just created like a lot of these systems were. This is something that has been practiced extensively since 2004. And when Kathleen first started, she used to cross tie horses, right? And force hands-on. She would, you know, do the symbols, right? Send the symbol, right? The power symbol, the symbol, you know, to the animals. She would do all those things. And yes, she would get buy-in sometimes, but sometimes it would turn very ugly. Like one time she went in with some horses And she didn't ask the lead horse. She didn't even acknowledge any of the horses. She just went straight to this injured horse and started doing Reiki on the horse's leg. And she left. And when she got up to leave, the lead horse attacked that horse and ran it into the fence. And then the horse was all tore up. You know, there's situations that happen. And again, somebody would go, oh, you know, he didn't like Reiki and he didn't like Reiki in his space. But then, you know, we have the story, and I love this story, and my students have heard it, but I'll share it for the people who aren't my students, that Kathleen went to in Sacramento. There is a horse rescue. It was for retired therapy horses, but these horses had been ridden like to death. You know, they weren't treated well and in very bad shape. And I guess a woman had gone in to offer Reiki, and, you know, with the intent, I'm healing you, trying to, and the horses chased her out of the round pen. They chased her out. So when Kathleen and her class went, she was able to get in through the vet, Mark, who's a SARA member and board member. And Mark arranged for this visit for them to practice animal Reiki. And the woman, the owner, said, look, they don't like Reiki. You know, they chased the woman out. And Kathleen said, well, first of all, we don't go in with the horses. We stand outside the gates. And second of all, we don't do the traditional Reiki that you might have heard of. And so everybody just started to meditate. And these horses, who were completely shut down, didn't like humans, were not connecting to even the volunteers that were there working it, started to come up and put their head in people's chests, started to lay down on the ground, started to open up, right, and relax. And the founder started crying. She said, I've had these horses for a while, never seen this. It is a huge difference when our intent is to just hold space and to share that energy, as opposed to you're damaged, I'm going to fix you, right? Who wants that? Can you imagine if you were in your house and somebody walks in and goes, oh, hey, Jamie, you're messed up. I lay down. No, really. I'm going to put my hands on you. No, you're fine. You're fine. How intrusive would that be?
I have that, well, not in my house. So I was at this networking group, right? And it was in some restaurant, you know, like they always are. And I sit down and there's a woman beside me, and she asked me what I did. So I told her, oh, I'm a Reiki master too. And, you know, I used to worry about it, and I just pick up on everybody's energy. So now I just go up and I fluff them when I see a problem. And she started fluffing around me. And I'm like, you need to back up, just back away from me, because I don't appreciate this. And I got angry about it. It's like, you know, that's really disrespectful. And she goes, well, don't you do that? And I'm like, of course I don't do that.
I love that. Yes. That's what we're talking about. Exactly. That's what animals feel. Yes. That is such a great example. And that's why we can't go in with Reiki, like Reiki, because Reiki traditionally is hands-on Reiki on, hands-off Reiki off, right? Yes. And then it's also traditionally focused on what's wrong. So for people, it's completely successful. And the reason for that is our egos, our head, right? If Jamie says to me, oh, Leah, I'm gonna give you Reiki on your arm that's hurt, and then, you know, it's why the placebo effect works, right? So I'm thinking, oh, this is working. It feels good. I feel her energy. Oh, yes. That's why these schools like William Rand, and we're friends with William, his system works so well with people, but with animals, it has to be a different approach, which is why we call it the let animals lead method, because it says it right there. We let animals lead. We don't lead the treatment. They lead the treatment.
Because it really is meditation that we're doing, you know, in the presence of animals, and we're inviting them in. And you're right. Reiki, Western Reiki, as we know it, it's hands-on, it's, you know, touch, it's healing, it's that intention to heal, you're channeling, you're doing something. And when we go in with animals, we meditate and we create a space. And, you know, totally different, very passive.
Because, you know, in Reiki, they're calling themselves healers too, right? And I'm sorry, I'm going to take offense to that, because we're in the midst of COVID for 2 years now. Where are my Reiki practitioners? Where are my healers, ladies? Where are my healers? You know, it's because everyone is on their own healing path. And when you give me Reiki, it's my path, it's my decision. Yes, this feels good. But with animals, when we're going like this, we're taking away their choice now. Now it's our path for them instead of their path that we're respecting. So with animal meditation, which is really what the Let Animals Lead method is, you're just holding space. You're bringing your energy into balance. So, we have different tools to bring your energy into balance. And when your energy is balanced, that is what animals are attracted to. Your intention, and even if you can't bring your energy quite into balance, it's just that effort of bringing it in. So the animal feels that. Whereas humans, I could be thinking about anything and everything and just sitting there doing hands-on with Jamie, and you might still feel it, but an animal is going to go, no. And that's why animals walk away. We're focusing on something, or our mind, horses are the best. Like, you're sitting with them, you're meditating, all of a sudden your mind goes to your grocery list and they just look at you and go, oh, I guess we're not meditating anymore. You've gone on to something else.
Okay, I'll go do something else. Right.
But horses will come back. Tigers won't come back. Tigers will all come back tomorrow. Your lesson's over. You messed it up. Yeah. I did that one time with the tigers. I will never do that again. Because they
That's a predator for you. They're like, okay, I'm a predator. We're not taking
and they're just like, this is a gift. You want to connect with me. You said you wanted to connect with me. But if you don't, then that's fine too. Now, the tigers that care, now they're babies. They were raised as babies. Right. They're more like horses. But the other ones that had been abused, that have passed on since, they were like, no, you either be here with me or you can go on. So yeah, I learned a very valuable lesson with them.
And I know you've been to Keepers of the Wild. Chris went with me one time, and she made the comment that reminded her of Chaos and his reaction meditation at the sanctuary. And
share that story.
Chris went in with me, and it was the middle of the week.
So first of all, talk about Keepers of the Wild so people know.
Keepers of the Wild is a wildlife sanctuary, mostly big cats. And the gentleman who started it used to perform on the Strip, and he brought cats into his show. And then he saw, the abuse that goes on with the entertainment world, with the animals. And he had celebrity friends, and they said, you should start a sanctuary. And it just kind of snowballed. And now he's in Arizona. It's beautiful. I mean, it's really gorgeous. They have an enormous amount of room. They have cats of all kinds. Most of them have come from either the entertainment industry, or they've been pets. They've, been abused. They've had their the claws removed.
And they're in a lot of pain because of that decline.
They're in a lot of pain.
Chaos is one of them. It's in extreme pain.
And so you can walk the paths and go out and see them. And Chaos is a tiger that just paces all the time. And even the staff. So when we went, we were the only two people there, and it was beautiful. So I decided to chant because nobody's around. What the heck? And we were chanting, and Chaos was just pacing, and you could tell he was uncomfortable, and he was pacing that fence. And I just stood there and chanted, and I noticed he started to slow down with his pace. And then pretty soon he just laid down. And the staff was like, this can't be, he never does this. It's like, well, so he found a moment of peace. So even the tigers who have been so abused or in so much pain, when you approach it correctly, with respect, with the right intention, just meditating, and really, chanting is a form of meditation, really. So that's what I was doing, and he responded to it. And actually, all the animals loved it when we were there that day.
Mm-hmm. And you can see, so I did a video about the animals of Keepers of the Wild when I went and taught Reiki to the staff with Kelly McDermott. And if you search World Animal Reiki Day, Leah D'Ambrosio, or you could just put Leah, it'll come up. You can see a video of the animals and hear about their responses, because we had incredible responses, only because we were in that meditative space. Because that meditative space, it seems so simple. It seems so, I guess, passive, right? You're not doing anything. We always want to be doing something. And it really, the magic lies in just us creating that space. And I know Kathy wrote something.
Yes, she wrote her comment, and it's a good one. to comment on meditation as it relates to Reiki, because there's so many different types of meditation. And Leah and I know that because we are certified in meditation too, mindfulness and meditation, which is different than in Reiki. We use the traditional Japanese meditations, but they have a history in Japan through their culture and through their spirituality. A lot of these meditations that we use in Reiki, that's where they come from, because Mikao Usui, that was his life, and that's what he knew, and that's what he brought in. Now, the mindfulness that we practice here in the United States is about becoming present, being aware. And then you have, different, like the Deepak Chopra, his meditations. So there's so many different styles.
Yoga.
Yes, yes. And I have found, I've used many different forms of meditation with animals, and they respond. So I don't believe, and you might disagree. So I don't believe that it has to be a specific meditation. Like it must be the Japanese meditations. I happen to like those and I use them a lot, but it doesn't have to be that, because where does it go back to? Our intent.
And also what meditation brings, no matter if you're doing chanting or if you're doing Deepak Chopra's meditations, or if you're doing Sanskrit chanting, right? We do Japanese chanting, but there's Sanskrit, like Om is Sanskrit chanting, right? Yeah. Or you're doing like a loving kindness meditation, which is a more traditional meditation. All of those serve to take you from here, chaos, blah, 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 down to here, right? So you're bringing your ego down into your heart, and now you're calm, you're grounded, right? Because that's what meditation brings to us, is that groundedness. And that is what the animals are responding. So any meditation is going to work. Again, it goes back to where this all started, right? What is your intent? And how are you feeling when you're meditating? Is your mind wandering when you're meditating? Because the response won't be that as good. Right. Or are you really just going inward with your meditation? And even the mindfulness meditations, you're focusing on your breath. You're focusing on going inward. And as you do that, as you slow your breath, you slow your mind, you slow your energy. And now you're like this, right? You're calm. You're no more like this. You're just calm. That is what the animals are attracted to. And I don't know if you want to say more on that, Jamie.
And I totally agree. Every morning, I have a meditation, and it's Deepak and Oprah, because I like to listen to Oprah talk a little bit. And then they have music, and he's got some mantra, and I ignore it. And then I just listen to what they're talking about. And then sometimes I just focus on my breath. Sometimes, I might use a Japanese mantra. Sometimes I just try to take in everything. I do like an open meditation and just become aware of everything I'm feeling. And it doesn't matter, as long as my intention is every morning we're going to go to the space, guys. And they know they're right there on the couch. They're under the blanket. They're sleeping. And then the minute I stop, they just pop up and they're ready to go for the day. So it's, I see them respond, and it doesn't matter which one I use.
Right. And your dogs are the best teachers, right? Like, they're showing you, it doesn't matter what meditation mom chooses. What matters is, what is mom's energy doing? Right. And that's the same with Mika too. It's even sometimes if Kathleen and I are talking and we're in that space, we're talking about meditation or whatever, and our energy comes down and we're talking slowly to each other, and we're, that energy of, you're bringing your energy down, you're connecting in that deep space, right? That is what they're connecting. That's why it's a practice, right? It's a daily practice. You want to be practicing this so you can always bring your awareness to, what am I feeling? Am I feeling stressed? Am I feeling angry? Am I feeling worried? Now, okay, I am actually. So now I can start breathing. I can bring my breath down. And not only do animals respond to it, but people respond to it.
Yes, they do. And, we see that in our work environment. We see that in our families, with our friends. and just think about it. If you wake up in the morning and you're late, you're like, oh, I'm late for work. And then you stub your toe because you're in a hurry. And then you get in the car and you're hitting every red light and you left your coffee up on top of the car. And it's just
Speaking from experience, I see.
Yes, there's some experience there. And then you get in and all your coworkers are stupid and they're getting on your nerves. And, they're like, coming at you. But then if you have those days where you wake up and you're ahead of schedule and you take some breaths, maybe you take your pets for a walk and you just are really present. Maybe you do some breathing, a meditation. You get in your car, you hit every green light. Oh, all of a sudden your coworkers are pretty nice and, they're helpful. Just changes everything, right?
Well, and also don't forget it's your perception. Sometimes I want to hit every red light because I'm texting. Right? I'm texting, I'm doing stuff, and I'm like, oh, thank God. Right. So it's our perception on what's bad. So on yesterday, it could have been bad. I was hitting every light because I'm in a hurry. But then today I want to hit every green light because I'm reading something or I'm texting someone, or, I just want that extra time to hear a book that I'm listening to, which is really more of what I do. It's like, it's like, oh, I don't want to get there too soon because I really want to hear what's happening. So, it's our perception and we have to be really aware of that. But Kathy, back to your question that, of course, when we take courses, right, you took the Animal Reiki for Reiki Practitioner course, you learned the Let Animals Lead way. Of course, you're like, okay, I want to practice exactly how this is, but this is a more, what is like fluid practice, right? Like we are sharing with you what we were taught, what Asui created. And this goes back to what you learn in the Let Animals Lead method, what Nicholas Pearson teaches, is back to the roots of Reiki, which Asui created this system as a way for lay people to meditate, right? An easy way for lay people to meditate, because most lay people in Japan at the turn of the century did not know how to meditate, right? They weren't raised that way. So that's what his intent was. And it was all about going inwards. Then with Dr. Hayashi, who wasn't really a doctor, he created the hand positions, and then Mrs. Takada furthered that because she was a student of Hayashi's. And so you can see where it's almost like a game of telephone, right? They start to change and it starts to change and it starts to evolve, but we are going back to that original time. And all he was doing is trying to teach lay people to meditate. So for us, when we say you can use any meditation, you learned a lot in the Animal Reiki for Reiki practitioners, or if you've taken Jamie's level 1 or level 2 classes, you learn all these traditional basic meditations. But we encourage you, grow. What we're sharing with you is the foundation, the basis. Right. Now you've got to find the meditations. If the ones that we've taught you aren't working and you have another meditation that you love and really helps you get into that space, use that. Use that to connect with yourself and to calm your energy. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you took this road, this road, this road, or this road. It's really what that destination is. And that's calm and that's peace. Because as soon as you get that, your energy goes out, the animals connect. That is what they're connecting to. They're not connecting to the meditation. They're connecting to you.
Yes. And I think it's important. I think it's important because it's your practice.
Right.
And I tell my students this all the time. I am here to guide you. I don't have all the answers. Obviously, look at, I've made a lot of mistakes along the way, so I can help you avoid those. And I'm here to guide you, but this is your practice and you need to make it yours, because when we start believing this one person is telling us, and this is the only way it is, that's when we get into that guru thing.
And that's so dangerous.
It's so dangerous, because you have to learn to trust your truth. That's what this is teaching us. We have the truth inside us. Trust your truth. This is your practice. Yes, you want guides to help you on this journey. Absolutely. And you want people who practice and, whose life is all about this. So that's who you want guiding you. But remember, you just can't follow anyone blindly.
No, and I think that that is such a great thing, because I mean, look at Kathleen, how Kathleen's evolved, right? She started, I remember level 2 classes, you get a pillow or you get a stuffed animal and you do hands-on, right? You're doing distance, but you're doing hands-on on the pillow. Well, she had to let that go because she realized that's also, the animals are feeling that intent and putting hands on you. She did that for a couple when I started studying with her in 2007. I think she kept that probably until 2009. And then, studying with Franz and learning more. But then even studying with Franz, Kathleen learned that, okay, some of what he was teaching, even though it was traditional and based on meditation, might have been too esoteric. And so she wanted to get back to more simpler times. And for us, I know that Jamie and I, we're evolving, and in our new business, we're going to be incorporating more different types of meditations to really help you get into that space quickly. And they're not Japanese. Now, obviously, our system comes from Japan, which is why the Reiki, right? We're doing Reiki. We're practicing traditional Reiki, sorry. And so Asui, don't forget, he was in Japan. Japanese culture is very precise, very it's like you're going to do it exactly this way, right? There's a lot of precision, like their tea ceremonies, everything's precise. But we're not Japanese and we weren't raised to meditate. So we have to find a way that works for us. And maybe it's the Joshin Kokyoho breathing, but maybe it's the loving kindness meditation that you found on the internet that really helps you to relax and go into that space. Maybe you found a 30-minute meditation on YouTube that when you're doing your distant treatments, you find it very helpful to listen to, because now all of a sudden you're relaxed, you're calm, and you can connect better. Because don't you agree, Jamie? That's really what we're going for here, is calming yourself so you can easily connect.
It's finding our center, being peaceful, and our intention. And how we get there, it's kind of like so many things in life, doesn't really matter which road we take, as long as we get to this place of peace and balance and compassion inside of us.
Yeah, it's really funny how we only really had time for Lisa's question, because we have like a list of 10. And so we apologize to everybody else, but we will get to people's questions. And then for those that are on the Facebook Live, if you want to email us, I mean, my students have my email, Jamie's students and friends, her email, just email us some questions and we can build something around your questions. And don't forget, we're on Clubhouse as well, and we can build the questions around that. And we can record on Clubhouse. We just can't post. We probably wouldn't want to post it on YouTube or anything, but you can get the replay on Clubhouse. And like today's was a little choppy on Clubhouse, but we're learning and it is recorded.
Yes, and that's all. You know what? We're a good example when you first start to practice meditation or working with animals. You're like, oh, I don't really know what I'm doing. And that's kind of what Leah and I were like today on Clubhouse. It's like, oh, well, we don't really know. But you can't let that stop you. Just have to do it, right?
Right. Well, in the animals, if you don't do it, who will? That's what, Kathleen, that was one of her big mantras. If you don't do it, who will? And it's so true. And we owe it to the animals. They give us so much. We owe it to them to give this back. And we owe it to them to really work on ourselves so that we can connect more deeply in that space. But even when we don't, like, the silverback story, it was such a great example. Or, the crocodiles, we're talking and they're still responding. Right.
And look how long ago those happened to us. I mean, it was years for me, and it's still like it was yesterday. And I'm sure it is for you with the crocodiles, how that transforms us when we have one of those connections with animals, when we're so blessed that they say, here, let me help you.
Well, and it's being aware, right? Because we always want to be aware. Because interestingly enough, when Tosco and Dolly did that, whole thing, I noticed it, Kathleen noticed it, but the students didn't, right? So when we got back, we said, oh my gosh, did you see? And they're like, no. And so it's like, you've got to be aware. And that's where that awareness comes in, like, that connectedness. It's not like we're all closed eyes, namaste. It's being in that space and carrying that space and finding joy in that space. Because honestly, going and sitting with an animal with joy in your heart is almost just as effective as you doing it. Because when we're joyful, right, we're balanced.
Yes. You're welcome, Kathy. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Darlene.
love
And we're
this.
so excited that you joined us. And yeah,
Yes.
and that's what this is all about. It's all about us having these deeper conversations and really supporting all of you, because it helps us grow as well. And we're excited to share these things. And maybe we can share the the smile meditation next.
Oh, the smile next time. Yes. So every Wednesday we'll be on Facebook at 4. And the smile meditation. Let's do that next week. That's a nice one.
It's a really nice one. And it's like, if you're feeling sad and you're feeling down, it like literally you can't help yourself.
I mean, and you can do it anywhere, and it takes no time at all, and nobody even knows what you're doing. So it's perfect.
Yeah. You're just smiling.
Smiling. That's it.
Oh my gosh, ladies, me, I can't ever say goodbye. It's like, it's a curse.
I know, me too. So you have to watch Leah and I, but okay. So it's 5:08. So we should get off here. Thank you so much for joining us. And I hope you can join us next week again. If you have questions, email us or put them in the comments, anything.
Oh, and Jamie, and we'll probably just throw this one up. I don't think we need to edit it and put slides right now. We can do that later, but we'll get this up on YouTube. And that way, if you want to go back and listen to any part, or if you want to share it, we encourage you to share it, because we like sharing this information, because information is power.
Yes, absolutely. All right. So I hope everyone has a fabulous week, and I look forward to next week. This is fun.
It was very fun. Nika says, okay, bye.
Oh,
Here's bye.
Okay, Nika. And I've got several around here. So, all right. Thank you, ladies.
Bye.